This is my YETI Trailhead camp chair, and in this video we'll be testing for its ease of setup and pack away, seat dimensions, breathability, storage, quality, and much more to find out whether it truly is the best heavy-duty camp chair ever made. To set this chair up, first lay the bag horizontally on the ground and unzip it. Slide one end of the chair out first and then the other end. Stand the chair upright once it's out of the bag and locate the four corners of the chair. This is the back two corners of the chair, and these are the armrests right here. Simply grab one back corner and one armrest and pull them outwards. When the chair is as stretched out as it can be at this point, this is what it should look like. Both the seat and back fabric are not taut. Next, the instructions say to push down on the armrests at the same time to unfold. But if you're not strong like me, do one handle at a time using your body weight to push down. Each armrest comes with its own locking mechanism, and each should click into place when you push down on them. This should make the seat fabric taut. Now, to make the backrest taut as well, go to the back of the chair and press down on this handle at the back. This is the final step, and your chair should be all set up. This is a time lapse of the entire setup. I timed myself and found that this took me only about 22 seconds. If you need these instructions on the go, you can actually find a very brief version of them on both the armrests, which was pretty cool. Packing away this chair is just the reverse of the setup. So first, pull up on the handle at the back of the chair, and the fabric across the backrest will no longer be taut. Next, press the release buttons on the underside of both armrests. Now grab opposite ends of the chair again and pull them towards each other. Once the chair is slightly compressed, it will stall, so don't use excessive strength to force it back together. Instead, grab both armrests and pull them together, and this will compress the rest of the chair down. After that, lay the chair on the ground. Notice the rectangular shape that the feet make at the bottom. Lay the chair down such that the short end of the rectangle faces the ground. The reason for this is because this fits exactly the shape of the carry bag. So look for the end of the carry bag that has the open zipper, make sure it faces upwards, then slide the chair in feet first. The bag's bottom is also a rectangular shape, so it only goes in perfectly one way, with the short end of the rectangle facing the ground. Once the feet are secured in the bag, go to the other end and place the head into the bag as well. It will fit perfectly. Finally, zip the bag up. One tip here is to make sure the zipper doesn't catch on the mesh of the chair, so just gently guide it with your finger. Here's another full time lapse, this time of the pack away, which took me about 36 seconds. As for the unfolded dimensions, here's what I measured. The longest width is from the edge of the cup holder here to the left armrest, and that comes in at about 27 inches. But if you take the width from the armrest to armrest instead, that comes in at just 24.5 inches. The longest length from the back of the pole structure to the front of the seat comes in at about 30.5 inches. And the tallest total height from the ground to the top of the chair comes in at almost 36 inches. Overall, these dimensions were quite close to what was being marketed. Now, if you want the more detailed seat measurements, here's everything to know, starting with the seat size. The seat width from one end to the other end of the chair measures about 19.5 inches. And the seat depth from the back to the front of the seat is about 16.5 inches. It's quite a roomy seat for me, and I felt like I had plenty of space. As for seat height, according to the marketed specs, that should be about 16 3/4 inch. So when I measured the seat height from the ground to the front of the seat, that was quite accurate, coming in at 17.5 inches. And when I sat in the chair and then I took the distance from the ground to where I'm actually sitting down instead, that came in at 16 inches. So basically, the marketed seat height is the average of these two readings. Now for the backrest height, this is from where the seat ends to the top of the chair for me. This comes in at 24 inches. And the backrest width comes in at 19.25 inch. Only the marketed backrest width was provided, and it was quite accurate to my testing. If you're tall, this is not going to be enough to give you a neck rest though. But the top of the backrest actually flattens off a bit here. So because I'm not very tall, I could actually scoot down the chair a bit and rest my head on the backrest, which was nice. And the last measurement for now is the angle of recline. Excluding the flat backrest top, the angle of recline of this chair is about 25 degrees, so fairly reclined. I found that 100% of this chair is actually very breathable with a full mesh-like construction. I'll give you more testing and the pros and cons in just a bit. Another feature of this chair are the armrests. These are made of hard, high-grade plastic, no padding at all, and they are not adjustable, but they were wide enough to be comfortable. For storage, we've got only one cup holder on the right of the chair, and it measures about 4 inches in diameter by almost 5 inches in length. I found that it could fit anything from cans, bottles, and even a 1-liter Nalgene. This cup holder is also super great because it's removable if you don't want to use it. Plus, there's also a drainage hole at the bottom to take care of any spills. For this next test, here's a quick list of everything I looked at, and we'll go through all of them right now. First, I looked at fabric, and this is made of polyester interwoven with polypropylene. It gives you a mesh-like construction that's very breezy and never runs too hot even when you sit on this chair for ages. There's no info on the material of the poles, but they're very heavy, very beefy, and very thick as well, coming in at more than an inch thick. The zipper on the carry bag was not branded, but it's big and beefy too, and it worked perfectly well. It even has its own zipper pocket as well. And this chair comes with a 5-year warranty. For portability, the pack size dimensions come in at about 43 inches in length by 9.5 inches in width and 10.5 inches in height. My testing came in at the exact measurements that were marketed, which was pretty cool. The carry bag has 2 straps, both adjustable using the buckles on each strap. You make them as loose as possible, like so. Or tighter if you're smaller built like me. The straps are thickly padded and comfortable, so it's super easy to carry around like a backpack. If you don't want to use the backpack style straps, there's also a smaller handle at one end. The weight of the chair itself comes in at 13.6 pounds. The carry bag weighs 1.1 pounds, making the total weight 14.7 pounds. This is almost 1.5 pounds heavier than marketed weight. Now, what exactly makes this YETI Trailhead the best heavy-duty camp chair? I have about 5 reasons why. First, the weight limit on the YETI is one of the most impressive, coming in at a whopping 500 pounds. I've tested about 20 chairs for this channel. Here are some of the most heavy-duty chairs of them all, and the YETI Trailhead is third from the top in terms of weight limit, second only to the Elvis Mountaineering King Kong and the Coleman Big and Tall. On the other hand, the average camp chair will have a weight limit of only about 300 pounds. Now, I'm not very big, weighing less than 120 pounds, but I had a friend of 250 pounds test the YETI for me for a few days, and it held up perfectly, and he really loved it. The next reason as to why the YETI is so heavy duty is because it's one of the few camp chairs that actually has UV resistance. YETI uses UV resistant additives according to the marketed specs. If my memory doesn't fail me, I think this is my only chair out of 20 camp chairs that actually has this. I've had my chair for a few months now, and I've had it out in the sun for at least a few weeks, and so far it's still looking good as new without any fading at all. The third reason is that the YETI Trailhead has the thickest and beefiest poles of any of the camp chairs that I've tested, coming in at 1.14 inches thick. Compared to the other heavy-duty chairs that I've tested, here's how the YETI compares. It comes in right at the top with the thickest poles I've ever seen on a camp chair, followed by the Coleman Big and Tall, and then the King Kong. The average camp chair has a pole thickness of only about between 0.6 to 0.7 inches. The fourth reason is the higher quality frame compared to most camp chairs. Not only are the poles much thicker, the pole joints are significantly beefier, thicker, and higher quality too. On the other hand, most chairs have these very simple rivets instead, which aren't as long lasting. And the last reason is because the entire chair is made from a single piece of fabric. You won't see any stitching on it apart from the ends of the fabric and where the fabric connects to the frame of the chair. This is much stronger than a typical camp chair that will have stitching throughout the seat and the backrest as well. And this is why I think the YETI Trailhead is such a heavy-duty camp chair. Now, apart from all these reasons, what are some other pros and cons to take note of for this chair? First, I really like the locking mechanism on the armrests that make the seat completely taut. On top of that, you also get a locking mechanism for the backrest as well, which makes it taut as well. Most camp chairs have very saggy seats. Here are a few better ones that I've tested, and the Trailhead is right at the top with not just a taut seat, but also a taut backrest and locking mechanisms for both. Next we have the Kijaro Dual Lock, which has a locking mechanism for only the seat, but not the backrest. And the rest of the chairs here do not have locking mechanisms, and none of them also have a taut backrest. Another pro is the tall seat height of this chair, which is on par with any office or dining chair that you may have at home, if this is something you prefer. On the other hand, most camp chairs actually sit much lower to the ground, and here's a list of the tallest camp chairs that I've tested. The YETI is again at the top, followed by the Kijaro, then Coleman's Big and Tall, and the King Kong chair from Elt's Mountaineering. The average camp chair that I've tested comes in at just 11 inches in seat height. Another pro of the YETI is its great lumbar support. Whenever I sit down on the chair, I notice that the fabric has some give and it actually conforms to the shape of my body. I never noticed any pressure points at all, even though I've sat on this chair for hours in a row at times. Another great point on lumbar support is that the seat doesn't sag when you actually sit on it. So the front of the chair comes in at about 17.5 inches. The part where you're sitting down comes in at about 16 inches for a minimal height difference of just 1.5 inches of slope. On the other hand, a lot of camp chairs actually slope down from the front to the back of the seat by 5 inches, sometimes even more. And this kind of steep slope isn't good for your back in the long run. I also really liked the generous seat size of the YETI. It's not the biggest I've seen, but it's definitely one of. Here's how the YETI compares to the biggest camp chairs I've tested in terms of seat size. You'll find both the seat width and seat depth here. The only ones bigger than the YETI are the King Kong, Big and Tall, and the Cooler Quad. Everything else is smaller, with the average chair coming in at just 17 by 15 inches. Another fantastic pro of this chair is how breathable it actually is, covered in 100% of this mesh-like construction. In terms of amount of mesh each chair has, the YETI Trailhead is definitely the most too, followed by the REI Campwell and the ENO Lounger, then the Nemo Stargaze, and your average camp chair typically has not a lot of mesh, because mesh is more expensive to manufacture than fabric. If you camp in summer, this YETI chair will be a lifesaver because it'll never run too hot. And here are the results of a 1-hour sit test that I did with this chair. Notice that the temperature never gets too hot, and you can sit in this chair for hours. As for stability, the feet are big and wide, and the feet spread is also much wider than your average camp chair. That, combined with the weight of the chair, made it one of the most stable camp chairs I've ever used. If this video has been helpful so far, please help me hit that like button. It really helps me out. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate it. Moving into the cons, the biggest one is easily that it's very expensive for a chair with an MSRP of $300. Compared to other heavy-duty camp chairs that I've tested, it's more than 3 times the price. So you just gotta weigh the pros and cons I give you here to see whether it's good for you. And the smaller con is that it's very heavy. Mine weighed 1.5 pounds heavier than the marketed weight, and it's also one of my bulkiest camp chairs. For some reference, compared to a mid-sized 2-person tent, this is a Coleman Tundra. It's about 80% longer in length. That's almost double in length. Ultimately, I do really like this chair. The only biggest issue is the price, of course. And because the price is so steep, you may want to consider this chair only if you have trouble getting out of those seats, because most camp chairs are very low, you need a heavy-duty chair, or you don't have a perfectly good back and you need lumbar support. This last reason is the biggest reason you may want to get this chair. Otherwise, if you have a perfectly good back, you can get away with a much cheaper yet still heavy-duty chair like the King Kong. If you want to check out other options before making your decision, I actually tested 20 different camp chairs in this video on screen, so do check it out for all the info you may possibly need. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in that one.